I had this like vision. I was sitting in my bedroom, just staring at the window on a Friday. I call those Fridays my thinking days. And on a thinking day, I just like was like, wait a minute, breast milk is liquid gold, right? You never want to like waste it. And therefore baby poop must be fertilizer gold. And right now we're just wrapping up this magical mama juju fertilizer in plastic and throwing it in the trash and not harnessing billions of pounds of potent baby poop to potentially support the planet in some way. My son Hiro, when he's 2, comes running into my room as I'm asking myself, what can potentially be fertilized by baby poop? He points to a book in my nightstand and he starts saying, pacha, 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 mama. And I pull out this book and I keep reading it. And on page 31, it says, there are certain types of mushrooms that can eat plastic.
You have not only dreamed so big, but built so big. So what would you say to anyone about how to hold a mindset that expansive?
I mean, I think it just...
I'm Layla Martin. I'm your host of This Tantric Life. This podcast is for you to learn about and be able to use the incredibly powerful system of Tantra in your life. I have been teaching and studying classical and neo-Tantra for over 20 years. And when you apply that to sex, love, and relationships, as I love to do, you end up having conscious relationships, the deepest, most epic and magical sex, and the kind of intimacy that you get to be grateful for on your deathbed.
Hi, and welcome to This Tantric Life. I'm your host, Layla Martin, and I am sitting here today with one of my best friends, and I cannot wait for her to unpack some of her innovative, creative genius to you. She is the founder of 3 world-changing companies that help people and save the earth at the same time. THINX, TUSHY, and Hiro, which you're going to learn all about, which is this incredibly innovative company, which can actually remove plastics from all over the planet using advanced mushroom technology. We'll tell you more so soon. She was named one of Forbes' top 20 millennials on a mission, one of Inc.'s most innovative women, and Fast Company's most creative people. People have often asked me, why is she your bestie? And I say, because she not only inspires me to live my biggest, boldest life, but she will say the most hilarious shit on a dance floor. She is stylish as hell, and she lives with one of the most vulnerable, open hearts as a woman, a mother, a lover, and she inspires me every day with the way that she walks her life as a truly piece of extraordinary poetry and crushes it by building multiple 9-figure businesses at the same time. Miki, I'm so excited to have you here.
I mean, I'm glowing sitting here with you. I mean, wait, I'm like, when is it my turn to be on a Layla Martin podcast? Finally. No.
Yay. So I would love to hear a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey first. I love that you are a Miki Agrawal, and Miki is one of the most common Japanese names for a girl, and Agrawal is one of the most common Indian last names. But you are, as far as we know, the only Miki Agrawal in the world, unless we turn up a hidden one through saying this on this podcast, because it's so rare for a Japanese woman and an Indian man to make a baby and to...
There's 2 of us.
Yeah, there's 2 of you. Oh, yes, you have a twin. And so I love that you truly are like a rags to riches immigration story. Do you want to tell just a moment about your parents, your upbringing, and then like how you started selling pizzas on the street of New York City so young?
You know, we all have a starting point somewhere, you know. Okay, so I grew up in Montreal, Canada, to a Japanese mother and Indian father, as you said. And in French Montreal, like in the real pepper, like part of Montreal, like Canada, you know, like people didn't know what, you know, hot dog, but they were like, oh, a dog, you know, because that's how they, you know, they would say with a French accent and they understand it. But they're like, we don't speak English, we're French. Yeah. And so I grew up in a deeply French part of Montreal, Canada. And it was just interesting because like at my dinner table was always a super debate. You know, it was different perspectives were always welcome. And it was like the French Canadian, it was the Japanese, the Indian perspectives. We always grew up with like healthy, sometimes argumentative debate at the table, which I think really lent itself to creating that sort of questioning the status quo. Why are things done this way? Why should like, why is this the best way to do anything? Is there a better way? Is there a different perspective of how to do something? And I think that questioning really led to the entrepreneurial journey. Yeah. So I would say, like, growing up, I was really like, with a strict Indian father, did not like authority. And so I think I was fired or quit every job I ever had because you know the drill. You're like, you're not my father, I'm out of here. And so I basically was like, entrepreneurship, that sounds good to me. And also necessity is the mother of invention. And so I really, really learned that, like, wow, when I have my own personal issues within myself, like I'm somebody as anyone to solve for it. Like, I can figure this out. I mean, that guy figured it out. I could figure it out. And so my first sort of, my trajectory was I worked in, graduate from college, worked in finance, was like, I'm not a finance person. I don't fit in the finance world. And so, just 9/11 happened. It was like a crazy moment in history. And it was that moment for me. It was like the aha moment. I feel like we all have that aha moment in our lives. And for me, it was 9/11. And it was like, wow, like the mystery of life is you never know when it's going to end. Yeah. It could end right this moment. A meteor could hit us right now. And did what we do matter?
You were also supposed to be in your work building that morning, but you missed it for some reason.
Yeah, my subway stop every morning was 2 World Trade Center. Yeah. And I was supposed to be under 2 World Trade Center when the first plane hit. Yeah. And I slept through my alarm clock. It was the first and only day in my life that I slept through my alarm clock. I'm a very light sleeper. In fact, this morning, I was trying to sleep in, but my son Hiro came crawling into my bed at 6 a.m. And I was like, no. So the only day in my life was 9/11. And it saved me. 700 people in my girlfriend's office died on that day. 2 people in my office died. And so many of my friends, my colleagues had moments where they were like flying underneath, like, cars. And just before the Trade Center shrapnel came down and killed people. And it was a wild moment. So it was that moment where I was like, every moment matters and I'm going to do something about that. So I wrote down 3 things I wanted to do with my life. The first was to play soccer professionally. The second was to make movies. And the third was to start a business. And I found out New York Magic was holding tryouts, fast forward, from 100, D1 athletes tried out. And I made the team, made the starting lineup, and was all set to quit my job and tore my ACL. And then cut to, it's a crazy, crazy story, but tore my other ACL. And then I was like, okay, this is not my calling. Next thing on my list was to make movies. I started working on sets of commercial music videos and just, learned the gift of storytelling. And that was when I had my first aha moment for my first business, which was born out of stomach aches. I was just eating crap on the craft service tables at film sets, and I would kept going home and having stomach aches, especially after I ate pizza. And I went home and looked it up, and I was like, wow, pizza is a $32 billion industry. Americans eat 100 acres of pizza every single day. And there is a huge opportunity to change culture and just disrupt this category and make gluten-free, farm-to-table, local, organic pizza. And back in 2005, when Subway was like the healthy option, and so started that, built my restaurants. I opened up 4 locations, one at a time, learned so much about people, about how to get people to change their habits. And I think I spent, as you talked, I said I stood outside my restaurant for years handing out little pieces of pizza and A/B testing headlines, just like healthy pizza, like no one would stop. I'd be like, gluten-free pizza, like no one would stop. And I would say like, yummy pizza. And then people would stop and I'd be like, okay, this is working. And then I would, as they're eating, I'd be like, did you know it's healthy? Like as they're like taking, I was like, did you, and like, oh, take a menu. And so they're like, oh, so I really learned like, what is it that got people in the door? And then what got people to shift consciousness, and when, the timing of it all, and what kind of, inspirational things could be done to do that. And that's when I created my thesis around how to change culture, which then applied that to THINX, TUSHY, and now Hiro, which is sort of a 3-pronged thesis, which we can get into. But
great. Well, yeah, and gluten-free was very innovative back then, because I was diagnosed with celiac in like 2003, and there was gluten-free nothing anywhere in the United States. So it was just like, okay, I can't eat any of these things. And I remember how much it blew my mind when I came home from Asia and there was suddenly gluten-free pizzas. And your restaurant to this day is still one of the most delicious in New York City. And what I love about you standing on the street is so many entrepreneurs that I meet, they look at people like us and they don't see that very gritty, very humble beginning. And like, even today, right, you're still, we'll get to it, but like digging up poopy diapers, like
God's work.
God's work. And like, it's so important to remember that I have never seen an entrepreneur who didn't have a severely gritty period of having to like just keep going, like when all you want to do is quit, right? And like that truly is one of the portals that every entrepreneur has to make it through. And so I love just the experience of you standing on the street, A/B testing and learning what it was to get people to buy pizza. By the way, I made aphrodisiac balls, chocolate balls naked.
I mean, I would buy that. I would pay top dollar for that.
And worked very hard to sell them at Earth Dance. People would be like, do they have drugs in them? And I'd be like, no, I'm trying to teach you about the power of your own endogenous chemistry and that you can get high with simple plants and that you don't have to take MDMA. And that was not a winning headline. That didn't sell people.
I mean, A/B testing, seeing what works, what doesn't work. I love it. That's so, I mean, I would eat that right now, actually. I'm hungry.
I'm here to let you know that if you want to stay connected to my teachings and if you want to support this podcast, the best way to do it is to sign up for my email list. Email list sounds old school, and yet it is where I share my most intimate teachings, the path, process, heartbreak, and triumph of my life, and so much of the content that I make for you on a regular basis. So the way you get on the email list is by heading over to laylamartin.com, put your email address into any of the boxes. You can also sign up for cool practices like sex magic or energy orgasm, totally free. Heading on over to laylamartin.com, signing up with your email address. This supports the podcast. It supports this entire work and is the number one way for you to receive the highest teachings of this path. So let's talk THINX. You innovated period underwear, right? Which is not only such an incredible solution to a problem of like, I don't want to deal with a pad or a tampon, but as with all your businesses, also solves an ecological issue, right? Like it just how God knows how much plastic was getting disposed of into landfills when we could have reusable underwear. So can you share your aha moment for that and what THINX did for the planet?
Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing THINX right now because like I'm the gushiest on like my first 3 days of my period. And I go through like literally like 10 or 15 pads back in tampons when I used to wear tampons. Now I just wear pads and THINX. And yeah, I mean, 20 billion plastic tampon applicators and pads plus now end up in landfills and they take 500 years to decompose in landfills. It's horrifying. And also the plastic like on your body and the most sensitive part of your body is not good for you. And when you put tampons inside, it can cause lacerations, which is what causes toxic shock syndrome and all that stuff. So to be able to wear a pair of underwear that doesn't leak, that doesn't stain, that absorbs the blood and that you can wash out and reuse them over and over again. And that feels sexy. And I feel like really taking care of wearing them. There's nothing like that feeling. It's no longer like a period. It's like, come on, you can keep going, Also,
I love that you innovated period underwear, which ultimately gives you a great solution for not bleeding all over the place, but you're also notorious for being a free bleeder. I remember one of our early experiences was that you blessed me with a third eye blessing with your menstrual blood.
I think I have the picture still. I can send it to you.
I got your menstrual blood and then I got Rada, your twin sister, to put double menstrual blood on my third eye. And I was like,
She's in the family.
Die now. And then that footage on Instagram got your Instagram story taken down, which is still outrageous.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, how is menstrual blood like so offensive?
It was crazy. And I think that was such an interesting thing. It was like entering really the taboo space of talking about something that the unmentionable, the word taboo actually stems from the Polynesian root word tapua, and tapua actually one of the definitions is period, your menstruation. And so like the fact that taboo means your period, it's a crazy thing. And so there was this both the desire to solve the problem, but also the desire to break the taboo. Yeah. And can we do that with the right, creativity in the right language, obviously the best in class product, but then also how do you encourage a conversation? How do you get people to talk about it in a way that's empowering, inspiring, and doesn't feel crass? Yeah. And so that was really that fine line. And I think my restaurant experience of the A/B testing headlines, knowing how to get people to try something different, try something new? How do you encourage something in a way that's not shamey or makes them feel bad, but actually inspires them and seduces them to make a change? And so I think for me, like first turning to art was really, really important. Like, how can you make periods as artful as we possibly can? And so we hired a ton of artists, like not like graphic design graduates, but actual like fine artists and photographers and editors. And, I would say that of the first 15 employees at THINX, 10 were creatives, were artists, because it was so imperative to change the conversation through art, through creativity, through that sort of dance of enticing someone to look at something that's considered shameful and look at it from a fresh pair of artful eyes.
And one of the things that originally connected us actually was that you became infamous for fighting the New York subway, right?
Yeah.
The MTA, because they would allow breast implant advertisements and they wouldn't allow you to advertise THINX. And one of the reasons I was so drawn to that was because I was continuously getting shut down or banned or blacklisted on Facebook or
Talking
YouTube.
about sex, why we're all here.
Exactly. Yeah. And like not showing pornography at all, but just talking about pleasure. And what was so infuriating was like, you can talk about Viagra, you can talk about erectile dysfunction, you can use sexualized photos of women's bodies to sell things, but I can't show a woman experiencing pleasure like with her clothes on. It's like if you are banning a healthy conversation around sexuality, then you are endorsing the status quo, and the status quo is rape culture and a really like sick society. And we're not even allowed to publicly talk about this like empowered relationship to our own bodies. It was so wild. So I was like, who has been dealing with this? And I was like, this woman, Miki, and you're so audacious too. I was like, how'd you do it? And you were like, oh, I just wrote all the reporters with like all caps, scandal.
Scandal with MTA.
Yeah.
And yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
Because people love a good scandal.
And it is a scandal. It's just society doesn't recognize what a scandal that is. Like, how is it okay to let predominantly male doctors tell the story of like giving women breast implants, but you can't let women talk about their own period products?
And it was so fascinating because at the time, the campaign that we came up with was using a halved grapefruit. And actually the breast augmentation ads were literally grapefruits. It was someone going from little tiny sad oranges to like big grapefruits with a big smile on their face. And that was plastered all over the subways. But using a halved grapefruit to represent a woman's vagina in a very beautiful way was considered totally, absolutely shameful, especially when it was talking about a woman's period. So kudos to you as well for honestly, like, it's crazy that our pleasure is not, but for male pleasure, it's okay. But the female pleasure is not. It's a wild and it's important. It's just such important conversations to be having. And now look, I mean, everyone's talking about, their Kundalini awakenings. And I feel like it's in, and back and they were like, what is that? It sounds so woo-woo. And now it's like, I know what it feels like because I experienced one too. And so I used to be one of those people like, okay, Kundalini awakening. But I was like, whoa, I really know what that feels like. And it's wild.
We'll talk about your sex magic awakening too.
Yes. When we did sex magic together and manifested our highest visions while masturbating together. I mean, that's pretty avant-garde if I do say so myself.
Yes.
I'm excited to take a moment and share with you about the VITA coaching certification. This program has been around for almost 10 years, and it is my highest offering. The sexual wellness industry is forecast to be a $125 billion industry by the year 2026. Why is this? Because people are more ready than ever to express their sexuality and build deeply connected, meaningful relationships, and also, obviously, to have the most outrageous orgasms and erotic experiences of their lives. But most people are never taught how to do any of this, how to have extraordinary relationships, how to have the sex they really crave. They're looking for qualified, confident professionals to teach them. And my VITA Sex, Love, and Relationship Coaching Certification is a powerful 1-year professional certification that's helped more than 2,000 coaches make their way to becoming incredibly successful and highly paid sex, love, and relationship professionals.
But this program doesn't just train you in every aspect of the coaching process so that you can build a successful online business. VITA Coaching will also walk you through the personal transformation of a lifetime, because the best coaches have done the work themselves. You'll discover so many transformative techniques like breathwork, meditation practices, self-pleasuring tools that you'll apply to your own life first, and then you'll use these same proven tools and techniques to get laser-focused results for your clients. We also hold an exclusive live embodiment retreat just for VITA coaching students and alumni every year. In this retreat, you'll experience 7 days of live teaching with the VITA teachers and really refine your skills as a sex, love, and relationship coach. So if you feel called to claim your spot in this multi-billion-dollar industry and transform not only your own life, but the life of so many others around the world, you can join me inside the VITA coaching certification now at laylamartin.com/VITA coaching. That's laylamartin.com/VITA coaching, VITA. All right. So THINX became a 9-figure company.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful, very successful. And then I believe just before or while you were pregnant, you actually also innovated and created TUSHY, right? The bidet company.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that happened is like, we live in this world where it's like more, build faster and more, and like next quarter returns and scale at all costs. And what is at all costs is our bodies and not listening to them, especially as women. And we push past our body's boundaries. And I've done that. I did that for years. And what happened to my system was that it went into overdrive. And I developed for a couple of years a hyperthyroid condition. And one of the side effects of a hyperthyroid condition is pooping a lot. And I was pooping literally, no joke. This is not exaggeration, up to 8 times a day. I'm talking big cow patch shit. Like I'm talking like shit. You're like, how is this coming out of my body? Like,
Were you eating that much?
That's the other thing. I was barely eating. I went down to like under 100 pounds. And for me, like that was like really tiny. And I was scared, really scared. My heart was palpitating so hard. Every night I would pray that I'd wake up and not have a heart attack every night. Like it was really touch and go for a couple of years. And one of so my husband, he had got me this, really kind of a shitty, he found a Chinese bidet thing from Asia that he found and put it on my toilet for Valentine's Day to help me with my pooping ailment at the time. And which has been healed, by the way. I'm very fine now, just to be clear. My ass and my system works perfectly. But it changed my life. And I said, like, I am going to create the best in class American bidet brand that's going to make the most epic bidet and bring it to the American people, because this is life changing. There's life before bidet, there's life after bidet, there's life before TUSHY, life after TUSHY. And it's actually a game changing product. Like I cannot live without it every day. Like I was in the Arctic Circle. I brought my TUSHY travel with me. Without it doesn't matter how nice of a hotel or wherever I stay. If there's no bidet there, it's a disgusting hovel of an experience, actually. And so I'm trying to normalize bidets. Again, like that part of our body is the part of our body that we neglect the most. And yet it's the part of our body that feels pleasure, that removes all the toxins from our body, that creates babies. I mean, creates the most amount of pleasure. Like the fact that we are just kind of not handling it because it's taboo in this puritanical world that we live in is a shame. And so to be able to genuinely take care of it with a splash of fresh water, when after you go, you actually feel sexy, you feel confident, you feel empowered. I feel clean. Like I barely shower the rest of my body because that part's clean. I'm good. I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I use my bidet, and I'm out the door. And I think it's a beauty practice. Like I call it like a beauty regimen. And so, TUSHY, it's changed my life, and it's changed the lives of millions and millions of people around the country. So I'm very, very proud. And we've helped save over 10 million trees from getting flushed down the toilet. We have funded the build out of clean toilets for 60,000 families in India. We have funded resoiling and reforestry projects all over South America. Super proud of that. And with THINX, we have funded so many women to go back to school. We're talking millions of women to go back to school when, millions of girls actually drop out of school because of their periods. They have to stay at home and they don't have the right supplies to stay in school. When you miss 1 week of school every month, you end up getting so far behind, you drop out. And so we've helped keep so many girls in school, which is a really big deal. So yeah. And
also, let's just talk about clean assholes really quick.
Yes.
I want to just go back there.
Let's go back there.
Because like a clean asshole is like, we want clean teeth, we want clean hair, we want like it's just like cleanliness, period, right? And this for some reason was like the forgotten orifice of cleanliness. And a clean asshole is sexy. And we just actually surveyed our audience and via email, our community, and their number one desired thing is to have more amazing, better orgasms. But their most desired sexual experience is anal sex.
Yeah.
And anal sex is like so pleasurable, so hot. And honestly, if you're not using a bidet, it's much scarier.
Yeah. I mean, Yogi Bhajan even said, dirty butt, dirty mind.
Yeah.
Clean butt, clean mind.
Well, I like having a dirty mind and a pure heart.
Oh, that's true too. That's true. We do like having dirty minds too. It's true. We can update that. We can update that.
I'd say the idea is clean butt, anal orgasm, pure heart, dirty mind.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Yogi Bhajan. Step aside. Layla Martin's in the house. Thank you very much. Obsessed with that. Yes.
Also, we got to have one of our classic friendship conversations because we didn't know each other like that well. I mean, we were like already like in our friendship, but we weren't like deep in it. And I remember that you were putting on ButtCon.
Yes.
I think this was like 2019 or whatever. I remember being in Italy and I was like, hey, like, you know, like ButtCon, you know, you're like, do you want to be on it? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I was like, I was curious why you didn't invite me. And you were like, well, I kind of think of you as like the pussy person. And I didn't want to like assume it was just all orifices.
I love it. Right. I remember that conversation.
And I was like, of course you can assume I'm about the anus.
No, just to kind of set the tone of what ButtCon was, which I'm very proud of it. It was like, think Comic-Con, but all things butts. And so we had like Kim Kardashian's like butt workout specialist. We had a butt pimple expert. We had the twerking champion of the world. We had Asa Akira, who's the #1 anal porn star.
You had me interview her.
We had the cake sitter. Yeah, we had Mark Hyman, the gut doctor, who's seen millions of poops. And then we had Layla Martin, ladies and gentlemen, who really talked about anal sex and also just liberating that part of the body and just the pride that we must feel to just feel pleasure and release that part of our body. It was so powerful.
I also did one of my all-time favorite press interviews, which was I was lying under a giant inflatable ass that you had going, like,
right.
And I was lying with the Men's Health magazine reporter, and they were basically like, "What do you wish people knew about the asshole?" And I was like, "I wish people knew that it was a portal to God."
Thank you. I will admit, I've only ever put a butt plug in my butt. I haven't quite fully gone anal. I just know too much about the, but that's why I'm a Tushy, user on a daily basis. So I'm building up to.
Well, maybe let's commit to like next podcast. You can talk about your mind-blowing anal sex experience.
Great. I mean, it's the de-armoring that I'm waiting for to happen, actually. I have some friends who've offered. So I'm still waiting, deciding who.
Well, my first
one lucky man. No, get in line.
My original, she actually like was mentored by me 10 years ago, and she was my program director, one of my first teachers. She still teaches for me 10 years later, Erica Allsburn, and she is like an anal expert. Like she's just obsessed with anal sex. She's like so good at it. It's her thing. And so we would call her the anal queen and me the pizzard, the pussy wizard.
We got to come up with something a little pizzard.
Well, the point was how unsexy.
Yeah. That's funny. Exactly.
Like usually it's like, oh, all glamorous.
Yeah. The pizzard. Yeah. What? I love it. I love it.
So then Hiro, I remember when you first told me about your idea for Hiro Diapers, and we were at some sort of backyard event in my backyard where we would do all manner of like sex magic and orgasmic breathwork and like wild parties and like blessing the dance floor with like pussy magic. I loved that backyard in Venice. It was so good.
So good. You had such blowout parties. They were so fun, and the food choices were so good. You know what I mean? It's not. I'm the girl at the buffet table, and just like looking around, first in line. Always.
I think one of my favorite memories actually of those parties. I have so many memories, but we would do the silent disco so that your neighbors didn't freak out, right? Because you can have a party, you just can't violate the noise ordinances.
Right.
So we'd have the silent disco with the headsets where it plays the music and the headsets. And me and like a whole bunch of people like crawled out onto the street. And then we were just like dancing on cars and like just on all fours, like going down the street. And like, you could just see all down like Penmar Avenue, like people just having like the time of their life to like what looked like silence. And I was like, yes, like dancing on like the fences. And it was like so good.
Iconic. With your like mouse farm on the front.
My rescue mice that lived in their mouse mansion.
It was so good.
Mice are the most ungrateful pets, but I loved them so hard.
The mouse mansion was such
I rescued a mouse and then I got she faced a snake twice and she wasn't eaten. And I found her like trembling in a tiny little plastic cage. And I was like, she has to be mine. So like I'm going to
build her mouse mansion because she survived.
Well, we don't even make large enough cages for mammals. You can't even buy one. So they only make these tiny cages. It's actually animal abuse to put any mammal in a cage that small, right? We do it to fish. We do it to birds. It's so fucked. So I was basically like, there is no way I am putting a mouse in like what they make, the cage they make for mice. So I had to buy a gerbil cage, a 4-story, like what was essentially a mouse mansion that was for like a big ass gerbil. And I had to get someone from TaskRabbit come and like put special like cage on it because the bars were too wide. It's like literally they don't make cages big enough for a mouse to be healthy and have a big enough environment. So I made this specialized mouse mansion.
There's like little like miniature like furniture in it or something. I felt like it was
plants,
like
I wanted them to have like an enriched environment.
I know.
Yeah,
I was like, I'd live here.
It was amazing. They
Mickey
lived their
Mouse.
best mouse lives. Yeah.
I would be the queen of this mansion, of this mouse mansion. I am Mickey Mouse. Makes sense.
So yeah, everybody, for the love of God, someone please start a company where you make large enough cages for mammals. If we're even going to put mammals in cages, for the love of God, which I don't think we should do, but they were at least all saved. The other ones got saved from anyways, it was a whole long story. But if you're ever going to give your child a pet, please make sure it has an enriched, large enough environment. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
PSA approved.
Yeah. And then for the parties, we'd put little lights around the mouse cage.
Yeah. It was so good. I was just like, it deserves a slow clap. It was so good. I was like, I love her.
And actually
and she had a swing in her living room. It's just the whole thing.
The way we became friends was me and Andrew Andrew had never done MDMA in his life. And me and Andrew had just done our first MDMA ceremony. And people had been trying to introduce us for a while. And you were a bigger deal than me back then, like a much bigger deal. Like my deal increased, my stock went up. Like
and mine went kind of.
I wouldn't say yours went down. I would just say there was a strong bull run on.
Totally. No, I shit the bed on the social media thing, but it's fine. I'm fine with it. I'm actually okay with it.
This was really just a characterizer experience Instagram. That I was being introduced to someone who was like a really big deal. And I was like a mini deal. And I was basically like, hey, I did MDMA with my partner last night and at the time, and also my husband. And he basically was just like, I feel like I need to urinate all over the furniture in order to fully experience liberation. And I was like, baby, you do whatever you need to do to get free. It's like, you need to fuck a couch. You need to pee on the couch. You can do it. So he tried, like, for those of you who've ever done MDMA, he tried to pee on the couch and like he couldn't because sometimes you just like can't pee.
Yeah, totally.
So then he literally went into the bathroom and like sprayed pee all over the place. Like he literally like got himself to pee and then just like flung the urine all over the place and then went out to the backyard and like just started fucking the grass. And he was like, I'm the first person to fuck the grass on the whole planet. And I was like, I don't think the first person. And he was like, I'm the first person in Venice. And I was like, maybe,
not sure. Well, I have a funny MDMA story. I got married I got engaged the night I tried MDMA after 3 days of knowing this person who's now my husband.
It'll change your life.
We lasted 11 and a half years and have a child together. So I think we kind of nailed the brief on the MDMA first time heart opening experience. So it does work. No, we had a great run. Yeah. Every year we go back to Burning Man. People are like, wow, you guys are still married. Okay, cool. And wow, I thought Burning Man weddings were kind of in air quotes, whereas, wow. And the year after that we go back like, wow, you guys are still together. Wow. Okay. And then years went by, like you're still together.
And you have a child?
And now we have a child who's the best. Honestly, we love our
child.
Hiro.
Yeah.
So we kind of nailed the MDMA situation the first time getting married 3 days in. It's kind of awesome.
All right. So tell us about the concept of Hiro Diapers.
Well, I had this like vision. I was sitting in my bedroom just staring at the window on a Friday. I call it Fridays my thinking days. And on a thinking day, I just like was like, wait a minute, breast milk is liquid gold, right? You never want to like waste it. And therefore baby poop must be fertilizer gold.
Mm.
And right now we're just wrapping up this magical mama juju fertilizer in plastic and throwing it in the trash and not harnessing billions of pounds of potent baby poop to potentially support the planet in some way. Mm. And so I was like, what could this be? And so there was this, it's a crazy kismet story of my son Hiro when he was 2, comes running into my room as I'm asking myself, what can potentially be fertilized by baby poop? He points to a book in my nightstand and he starts saying, pacha, 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 mama, pacha, pacha. And there's this random book, not so random, in my nightstand, in my bedroom that had no business being there. It was, this book was given to me a year and a half prior by some woman, you know, like, and you know, you get a book from someone at a conference and you throw it on your bookshelf, you never think about it again. But this book happened to make its way up 2 flights of stairs into my bedroom, in my nightstand, as I'm like, what could potentially like be fertilized by mushrooms? And Hiro points this book and I pull out this book and I'm reading it and he runs away because he's 2 and I keep reading it. And on page 31, it says, there are certain types of mushrooms that can eat plastic. And it was this like, again, aha moment for me where I was like, whoa, this is it. And everything in that moment felt so aligned. I went so deep in the world of mycology and mycoremediation, which means like, can you remediate the planet through mushrooms? Because when an old growth forest tree timber falls down and is dead, the only thing that can break the carbon backbone of a hardwood tree are certain types of decomposer mushrooms. And so it turns out that the carbon backbone of trees are similar to the carbon backbone of plastic. So you can take some of these decomposer mushrooms and apply them to plastic and they actually work. And you can actually put them through evolution and support their evolution to actually want to eat the plastic. And so that's what we've done. So we've built a company and it's just the most aligned thing, how it's all come together. Taro, the founder of Four Sigmatic, the mushroom coffee company, is my co-founder and CEO and 13th generation mushroom farmer. And just we have the right top PhD microremediation experts. We have top, bioreactor engineers. We have top mycologists. We have the #1 diaper person from Procter & Gamble who left Procter & Gamble to come to work with Hiro. He's like, I want to right, the wrong that we did with all the plastic creation. I want to, have a really, really positive end of life for this plastic that we're creating. And so it's just so aligned. And so we have figured out how to encapsulate, immobilize, and commercialize plastic eating mushrooms. And so our aim is to be the global supplier of plastic eating mushrooms and actually partner with all the plastic manufacturers and say, hey, there's certain types of plastic. Obviously, like single use is not great. We want to end that. But you need plastic to make medical equipment, to like save lives. You need plastic to make cars. You need plastic for so many things in our lives that are actually net positive for us. We just haven't figured out the end of life use for or how to dispose of it, discard it or turn it into something productive. And so we have figured out how to turn plastic into soil and how to create a regenerative, we call it a generative innovation that not only solves a current problem, but a future problem too. So the idea is that when the baby poops in the diaper, it triggers these dormant mushrooms to grow, eat the diaper within a few months. When you throw it in a landfill, which is like, just don't throw it in your backyard, throw it in your landfill. Like you normally would throw out your diapers. And the baby poop, they're like little bombs of baby poop and mushrooms that end up in landfills that start eating all the plastics in landfills too. So it's this like magical experience of baby poop and plastic eating mushrooms that save the planet, which is so cool. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's working, which is insane.
Yay.
And Layla's an investor. I'm very proud. And and it's been the most aligned thing where I'm just listening and I'm just sort of like the steward of this project. It feels so, when I'm like, oh, we need the right, diaper person, right person comes into our lab. Oh, we need the right microremediation expert, this right person. Oh, we need bioreactor engineers. 2 people. Can we hire 2 of them? Like just everything is aligning just as we need to. And it just feels good to have this big swing to be a big swing around something that really solves a problem for our next generation, for Hiro, my son.
And I think, I mean, there's so many things in this, but you and I have both built businesses grinding.
Yes.
And you and I have both found our way to a much deeper surrender, like listening to what the universe wants to create through us.
100%.
And how powerful and aligned it is to watch the synchronicity and the magic of the universe support a project that it wants to see birth into reality, and to see ourselves as these like stewards of these visions. As opposed to like, I alone, you know, it's like co-creating with the majesty of the universe and what you can do with that.
It's really, really been amazing. My word for 2024 is soft power. And so I've created a word for the year every year. You know, 2022 was rapture. 2023 was wholehearted truth. And then 2024 is soft power. And the idea is like, can I create from not a non-masculine way that we've been taught that the only way to raise capital, the only way to really charge, the only way to grow something is by dominating through our masculine muscle and being on our horse with our sword in our hand and charging forward at the front of the line versus sitting in your throne and sort of like quietly, you know, actually practicing the deep internal work. And that internal work will radiate outward and actually will just inspire those around us to actually take the right action and the right next steps with us, for us, you know, in a symbiotic way with ourselves, with each other, and with the planet. And that's like really what my practice is. I'm like so excited to like really build a real altar for myself. I've never really spent I'm Indian, but you know, I still, you know, I just felt like, oh, altar building is quite like, I feel like it's very white these days, but I'm kind of taking back my roots and building an altar that really speaks to me, and just going to create that space to kind of go in and go deep and get really quiet versus being the most charging person in the room, because that's what I've known and it's worked. And even sometimes when I'm under-resourced and when I'm got so much going on, I resort back to that kind of like just charging way. And I can just feel the difference in my body and how it just doesn't feel right anymore to do it that way. And when I'm in my soft power, when I'm in my just grace, and when I'm in my just quieter space, so much more gets done. And it's just a practice, because I've done it the other way for 20 years, because it's what the world wanted of me at the time, or for me to raise money for all those things. Like I had to like voice myself at the table, you know, but I feel the world has shifted a lot more. I think women are showing so much more that, you know, we actually are returning investment way better than most male-led companies. Even if women are still only getting 2% of investment, we are actually returning more and better and utilizing the capital in a lot more efficient way. You know, all of my companies have raised very little, and we've built massive companies with them. And so every dollar turns into many. And so, it's this next one is actually going to be the deepest practice of going in instead of going out. And the more I go in, the more I believe is going to support going out. Yeah. I'm
going to be super real with you. I realized that the number one thing I want in my life is to feel good. Right? An amazingly happy life is built on feeling good inside of the nervous system. Those are some of the most challenging feeling states to achieve when we're being bombarded by emails and screen time and overwhelming to-do lists and career and family pressures. And to reset the nervous system to be in its natural state of pleasure and play, that's right, nature actually wanted us to feel pleasurable, playful, sensual. It takes work. Research has shown it can take up to 2 hours to switch from go mode to deep relaxation, where you want to connect and feel good. If you're like me and you don't have 2 hours at the end of the day to meditate, to do yoga, then supplements and plants can actually help your nervous system to feel the ways that you crave. If you're interested in supporting your nervous system to feel the way that you most desire to feel, then go ahead and check out our mood line to shop the entire mood product line and unlock the pleasure you crave.
I'm here to let you know about one of my favorite practices, orgasmic breathwork. So what I've done is I have made 2 different audio guides for people of all genders to train you in how to use breathwork to have more orgasmic sexual experiences. So this breathwork trains you to get out of your head, into your body, to be able to expand pleasure from being localized in your cock or your pussy or intersex genitals into the whole expanse of your body, and to be able to orgasm stronger, longer, and more powerfully. So orgasmic breathwork is one of the most powerful tools that I've ever come across, and you can learn it in a 10-minute guided audio. So you can get it totally for free by downloading it on my website. You can head over to laylamartin.com/orgasmic breathwork. That's laylamartin.com/orgasmic breathwork. You can also find the link down in the show notes. I'm so excited for you to try this practice. It's truly revolutionary and is one of the fastest ways to experience what I'm talking about throughout this podcast, which is a deeper, more potent, more transcendental sexual experience.
I'm so excited to tell you about my sexuality training for men. If you have ever wanted to take your study in Tantra and advanced sexual mastery to the next level, then this training is for you. More and more men are waking up to the fact that there is a whole next level of confidence, pleasure, and power available to them when they step away from relying on things like porn and fantasizing to drive their sexuality, and instead begin to approach both life and sex in a more primal, present, and embodied way. I know that those are the kind of men that I feel most drawn to, but releasing the stories, negativity, and stagnant energy that hold you back from becoming a truly exceptional lover requires what I call the holistic tools of sex. These are practices like breathwork, energy activation, sounding, mindfulness, and movement. So I designed this 7-week men's sexual mastery training to train you in all of these tools so you can shift your psychological and energetic approach to sex. This allows your body to last longer, allows you to have multiple orgasms without ejaculation, and to experience flow states during sex. This is all done through powerful 20-minute practices that you can do once a week or daily if you desire. So if you've wanted to train yourself in a program like this to take your sexuality to a whole new level, join me in the Men's Sexual Mastery Training at laylamartin.com/MSM. Something that I love so much about you is with all of this, right? And selling your first company and all of the bigness and all of the responsibility. Like when I was going through it and had this like deeply broken heart, you crawled into the basement. like literally like the boilers, right? Like
And mouse dropping.
Yeah. There were literal mouse droppings. And you were like, do you think there's viruses in this? I was like, no, it's fine. It's not the fucking Middle Ages anymore. We're good. And like,
I could be sometimes a Japanese hypochondriac, hence bidet. Hence wash your ass before you touch me. Again, but go on.
I know, before you got here, you were like, how long was it before you had COVID? Since you've had COVID, I'm like 12 fucking days.
I was like, okay, I'm just asking. I'm trying to have a child. I'm trying to be responsible for myself, for others.
But you have always shown up and like always been there in the most intimate of ways. And I love that so much about our friendship. I don't think there's ever been a moment where it's like, you're too big to get me tissues when I'm crying, or you're too important to like come
on your
in
birthday
here.
FaceTime with like a pile of tissues.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, Queen?
To hear my latest boy drama, like whatever it is.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I love all of it.
Yeah. And you have the best. You're like, we're just like eating popcorn in the front row of each other's lives. So it's like, it's so de-shaming when it's just like, oh my God, have I done something too dramatic, too shameful, too like beneath me, too whatever it is, you know, or like, could I be too big, too great? And I love this. You're just like, no, we're just like eating popcorn in the front row of each other's lives.
I'm sitting front row, eating popcorn to the unfolding of our own love story or something like that. Of our love story. I'm just like, we're just eating popcorn, sitting front row to the unfolding of our love story. And it's just fun.
And I think something that's so important in sisterhood too, is you and I literally, when I saw the movie Booksmart, it reminded me of me and you.
Yes.
Where I'm just like, I think you're a world-changing genius of iconic proportions. You are here to change our understanding of what woman can be.
And I'm like, and you are the most incredible goddess who's taught me how to liberate my sensual and sexual magic. And I have done sex magic with you, and I haven't masturbated with other people before. And now I can do it with no shame at all. And it's amazing. Thank you for liberating my pussy. I love you so much.
And I'm like, you are the hottest. You just keep getting hotter. We genuinely were like, you keep getting hotter.
Actually.
Like we're like actually getting hotter. And we literally have conversations where we're like, why didn't anyone tell us that we could just keep getting hotter, sexier, more fun, more powerful? Like it was like this like story of doom, you know, like the age like goal, it's like, oh, it's all over after like 18 to 25, no, like 30, 35 or whatever. Now we're just like,
no, I genuinely feel more sexy, hotter, more empowered ever. And
yes.
You definitely look and sound and feel and embody that as well.
You too. It's so good. It's like this never ending adventure and it would never be this fun without each other.
I agree.
Also, your shoes are crushing and we have to show them because they're not showing. Yes.
They're actually like old, they're sexy old lady shoes, which I can walk and dance in them. And there's a special cushioning, which makes my knees really happy.
Yes.
My soccer knees, the pro soccer knees. Okay.
So I love one of the things that our friendship has done so much for me, but because you have not only dreamed so big, but built so big, expansive, hundreds of millions of dollars of worth that you've created with these world-changing companies, right? And it's so helpful sometimes to think that big, right? Because it's just like, wow, like anything could be possible. So what would you say to anyone about how to hold a mindset that expansive?
I mean, I think there's only so many hours in a day. There's 24 hours in a day, right? So either you can think to create something that's $1 million or $10 million or $100 million. I mean, you only have most limited thing is time. And so how big can your dreams become? And it's not really about money. It's about the energy of it all. It's about the radiance that we can bring to the world. And it's that radiating from the inside out. And it's like, how big can we radiate from the inside out? And how many people's lives can we touch? And what will come is all that abundance and all of that will follow. But it's actually the truth. It's the radiance. It's like, it's the inspiration, it's inspired self that comes from deep within, that how big can we radiate that outward? And that, I believe, is what creates just the unstoppable force of creation in general, right? I mean, I think we limit ourselves, especially women. We've been taught to like be small and stay quiet and this, and we're slowly really taking that off and just saying like, I'm here. I just watched The Color Purple last night on the plane ride back, the Oprah's latest version, and it was just like seeing these like sisters and like the sisterhood of these women, and how they were just beaten down by society and the men back in the day, and how the sisterhood really, really brought them to their queen. And I think it's the constant remembering of our sisterhood, of each other's sisterhood. We're not in competition. It's like there's so many seats at the table. I think for so long, they're like one seat at the table for the woman. And so we would claw at each other and catfight for that seat. Instead, it's like, there's so much room for all of us, for everyone, women, men, everyone, and everyone in between, all gender, everyone. And so I think it's how much are we willing to share of ourselves that I believe is that it's like the Care Bear potentiality that we have. And I think with THINX and TUSHY and what we plan on with Hiro is just going to be like really talking to like the innermost part of ourselves within me and within my team. And we're like, what is the thing that we want to just like, get out? And that is actually the thing that touches people the most to share and to spread and to grow and to build and to create a movement. because it's when you're trying to be someone you're not, when you're trying to be small, when you're trying to be fit into a mold of society, or like, I wonder what they want me to say versus what I want it deep inside of me, just want to get out. That is the thing that people are inspired by. So I would just say like, radiate as much as you possibly can, which you, are doing for the world and for women and, for everyone. That's actually what it takes, is to just take the veil of everything off and just radiate our true nature. And it's just going to be welcomed by the world.
And I think, something I've seen over and over again, certifying so many people to run their own businesses, is that happiness is not in a certain level of success or a certain level of bigness. Happiness is in following your true dharma. And I feel like everyone's soul was built for a certain level of impact. And some of our like deepest joy for some of us is
service.
Or being on a farm, or having a couple of clients on the weekend, or having a homegrown business on Etsy, right? Some of us, it's a mid-tier, right? And some of us were born to build empires. But as you're referencing, as women, those of us who were born with a big hunger in our souls were told that we could not do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's something very liberatory in allowing your radiance at the exact size of your dharmic alignment, your dharmic hunger. And for those of you who are built for empires, to let yourself radiate, to let yourself be big at that degree. And for those of you who are not built for empires, to know that it will never make you happy to live someone else's dreams, someone else's size.
It's so funny because our mutual friend, I won't name his name, but he was just like, all of my friends are entrepreneurs. They built huge companies, they're all billionaires, or they're all this. And I've spent the last 15 years just trying to like keep up with the Joneses, and it's just not me. And I realized I'm a philosopher who live on the, coast of Mexico. And that's what my dharmic path is. I don't need to be like this money making machine. That's just not who I am.
Totally.
And he's like, just realizing that and realigning with my truth has just set me free. And so what you're saying is absolutely right. It's not like we can radiate exactly the amount that feels good to us. And sometimes it's all the way out. Sometimes it's just what we want. And so I do feel like the more we radiate our true essence, the more our world will be healed, the more our planet will be loved, the more, because we're not just in angst for being something else. We're ourselves. And so we'll just, like, I'm me, like you're you. Like, we get to care more for others because we care so much more about our own truth. So, and you're so about truth. It's amazing. I remember when we became friends, you said to me, you're like, I want your truth, even when it's painful for me. I want it, even when it's hard. I want it. And it was like, like that is such an incredible friendship to build from that place of not trying to placate you or just like massage your ego or tell you, like, we have been,
You're talking about that one FaceTime late at night.
No. I was thinking about when I was like in that like really hard part of my divorce. And I was just like in my like Kali fighter, and you were holding space, and I had asked,
you asked me to be a mediator.
I asked you to be a mediator of my divorce proceeding. I was like, as a friend, confidant. And then we did have a quorum with like 7 of our friends as well, who came on Zoom and was holding space for me and Andrew. And it was really powerful to share our pain and our truth and our anger and our hurt together. And I remember like I was in a particularly like mood, and you're like, let's all just hang up for a second. Let's just jump back on in 5 minutes. And then you called me and you were like in tears because you were just like, Miki, like it's like, this is a moment where you need to open your heart. I can feel your heart closed, and it's really, really hard for me to watch. And so like, it was such a moment of friendship where I was just like, okay, like I could do this. And after that moment, it really shifted how I was going to like end that chapter without so much like the guard up, but more heart open. So that conversation was so beautiful and so helpful. And yeah, it's like these moments where you're just like, fuck.
Well, I called you like maybe a few years into our friendship, and I said, hey, I really want to know the answer to this. And like, tell me the truth. Do you want me to tell you what you want to hear?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to tell you the truth? Because people are different. You said, I want you to tell me the truth. And I was like, let's go. And what's interesting is some people have said like Miki, like with awe, they've been like, Miki really listens to you, Layla. And the interesting thing is I think we really listen to each other.
Yeah.
But part of that is because we've built trust over time by telling each other the truth, especially when it's been hard.
Yeah.
I remember one time with the FaceTime, the late night FaceTime I was referencing this, you were like, you got to let him go. And I was like, how dare you? How dare you?
I was like, I don't think he's doing it for you right now anymore. I don't know. I'm eating the popcorn. I'm sitting in front row, but based on my assessment,
I don't feel safe sharing my truth right now. And I was like, it's 11 p.m. I'm under resourced.
I was like, hey, I'm here for all of it. We've been through it. Yeah. I mean, gosh. Literally like all the business ups and downs. Like our first of our friendship was like during a really, really hard time in my life.
Yeah.
And that was important for me to feel the truth of what was going on to share with you. And that was so beautiful as well. So. Fuck yeah.
This episode is sponsored by my program, Obliss. What that means is that I have the joy of sharing this podcast with you because some of you will go on to join my programs. So Obliss, I have been teaching for 10 years. What does it do for you? It gives you a space to activate your highest pleasure, to fall in love with your body as a temple and experience the energetic magic and eros that is in you. How do I know it's in you? Because it is in every single woman and people of all genders that I have worked with. When they do these practices, they activate something inside of themselves that they never thought possible. Obliss trains you to have the ultimate orgasm. It's like you get the ultimate orgasm, but the kind of side effect is how deeply you fall in love with yourself. So the results that people get from this program are absolutely life-changing. It trains you to heal your sexuality, to address old wounding, to be able to face things like fear, guilt, shame, and shut down, be able to love and heal yourself back into your magnetic radiance so you can have the best sex, the most incredible relationships that you were born to have. So Obliss, you can actually sign up today. So you can head over to laylamartin.com/Obliss. That's laylamartin.com/Obliss. You can also find that link down below to find out all the details of the program and to hop into this incredible life-changing program that will give you a deep dive, but also a gentle introduction to the practices of Tantra and sacred sexuality that you can carry with you for the rest of your life.
Well, I love, something that we really pause on is like, we are the first generation that was allowed to build business on our own terms, largely because of the internet. So the previous generation of women who were really the first ones, I mean, you could only get a business degree in the United States, like even go to college, like very recently, even get your own bank account. It's wild, right? Like truly like 50s, 60s, 70s, all that became, it was like so crazy. So that first generation of women, they had to fight their way through the man's world, right? And they had to be successful on patriarchy's terms.
Yeah.
I would say we're one of the first generation to be able to be successful far more on our own terms and to build businesses that actually do good in the world.
Yeah.
And create a lot of value through actual like benefit to the world. And then we also get to show what I think is so important, that like one of the things that I can't stand right now on Instagram is like, there's such a polarizing thing of like, if you work as a woman, like you must be like a masculine, hard, like sexually unfulfilled, like dude who like can't get a partner or whatever. Or like, or you have to be like a housewife who like surrenders to your man. And like now that's like the new woke or whatever is to actually just like stay at home and bake muffins because this is like the new like reality or whatever. You're like, okay, everybody just do whatever the fuck you want. First of all, like just do whatever the fuck you want. Like don't do what anybody tells you on Instagram, and you can write the own narrative of your life. And something that I love that I feel like we both embody is that you can actually build something of big impact, radiate big in the world,
Yeah.
and be a lover, be a fashionista, like love
Have
parties,
fun,
like
yeah.
have so much fun, like be.
I'm optimizing for fun for the next, rest of my life.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's my optimizing number one. It's
I'm
fun.
gonna be
Is it
there
fun?
by your side.
Is it going to be fun? Okay, I'm there. Is it fun? Okay, great, I'm there. I will say one thing about
And for
just,
Gen Z, we did clock the hard hours before we optimized for
yeah,
fun.
exactly.
we
Okay, so like
we
yeah,
actually like put in the hours.
Yeah, so you can't just be the CEO immediately. So just like give it like a little bit of time, but it's fine. We can talk about it later. But I was just gonna say like one thing that it is really important to like not start another t-shirt company, like to actually create something that matters in the world, that's different, that is solving a real problem. And a lot of times people ask me like, I don't know what to be, like, I want to start something, but I don't know what to start. Like I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. I always say, well, literally go to the Millennial Development Goals or the MDGs and like look at those. And like literally the guy who started the mosquito bug net company is a billionaire. He made these bug nets that he sold to like Africa, or whatever he sold. So it's like, look at real problems that exist in the world. And you are just as much as anyone as someone to start this, that business or that creation, because you're like, well, I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to start. Like I actually I did create a program on Mind Valley on how to build a business as well. But it's really about when you're trying to solve a real problem, things just fall into place. Like the universe wants to help you solve a real problem. Because when you're trying to be like, oh, I just want to be a fashion designer and start another clothing company or another shoe company, it's like, how many more of those can you start before it's like a race to the bottom? Like I'm going to start another vitamin company, except when it has to do with sex, which I think is so legit. I do take sex magic.
Speaking of, do you want to drink it right now?
Yes.
So we have pre-mixed sex magic.
Let's go. Honestly, it works. I really get like turned on when I drink it. It's amazing.
It's really fun. I literally drink it every single day. It's so good.
So good.
Totally.
Is to start things that actually matter.
Yeah.
And, pleasure matters actually so much. We forgot how to be in pleasure. I mean, I see so many people who are just in these relationships that are just unpleasurable just because they have children or because they have obligations or they've bought a house together or they have this or that. It's like life is so short, like not to experience pleasure. And so
we all want to feel sexy. We all want to feel like super alive. And the other thing too is like when I was like part of that why around mood is I was like, I want to be a stand for the states that society will crush out of us.
Right.
Like society does not care if you feel sensual. It does not encourage you to be playful. Like euphoria, people are like, oh, like still clutching their pearls or whatever, or like sex magic, like making your sex life important. And so it's like, I want these products to be a stand for the states.
Just so important to create things that matter, that change a conversation, that creates value. And, then there's going to be so much fulfillment from that. Like if that's actually what's true. And it's like people who start stuff for money or for opportunistic reasons, they're just going to fizzle. And it's like, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. It takes a long time to really make shit happen.
Totally.
I mean, even with Layla Martin, think about it. It's been a journey. It's been like over a decade-long journey to get to be the tantra teacher of the country, for people to like be certified by you and for people to trust you. And obviously, I think this mood product will actually be way faster than 10 years, only because your journey has been a 10-year plus journey. So it's on your shoulder. So, so that's an important distinction, because I feel like people are like, well, I radiate, and like, well, if you're radiating, like something that is not necessarily like that the world doesn't like need, then it might actually be taking away from where you're putting your energy. So just to channel your energy in a way that's really, really like radiating in the right direction too.
So what always blows my mind is when you speak at Summit or Mind Valley, you offer more value in a single talk than most of the like business and marketing, like high-end masterminds I've sat through, like literally sat through, and you crush in like a 1-hour talk. So I'm curious, as someone who's built such compelling brands, like such brands of beauty and magnetism, what are just a few of your deepest insights around how to build a brand?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is again the 3-pronged thesis I have, which I'll share, which is around how to change culture, you know, and like through creating a brand. The first is just, you know, really focusing on art for design perspective. Like every single touch point of your brand needs to be artful. You know, we've talked about that ad nauseum around, but it's not just like beautifully designed, but like actually like has an artful, it hits you in a way that you're like, oh, that like speaks to you when you go to a museum and you see, you know, a Dali or you see a Matisse or you see any type of painting, you're like, wow, I really feel something when I see those. It's a similar thing where you actually can create an ad that can hit you in a certain way. And that's always been a challenge to my team. It's like, can you create art that's so beautiful and so personal that it could even make the small real estate on your fridge. You know, what I call it fridge worthy. Like, is it fridge worthy enough that to make a small real estate in your fridge? So really thinking of every touch point of your brand from a lens of art is so important. And people kind of neglect it a little bit. And I would say the second, so like, but art is affordable. Like, you know, our entire Subway campaign for Things cost us $5,000 to make because we used fruit and we used an egg yolk falling and we just, you know, we photographed it and we like made a little like backdrop, but it was like, we used a grapefruit, which cost like $1. But we got a dozen.
You're
eggs.
also one of the most thrifty people I've ever known in terms of like how much value you can derive out of a very small sum. You were excellent at that.
It's my Indian father. This goes out to him. No, I mean, it's you creativity, actually having financial constraints actually can be a creative constraint, which is so important. So how creative can you be? And I think so many people are like, I'm not a creative. Like, I don't have to come up with a great campaign. You literally walk outside and you walk into nature and you literally go into a gallery, an art museum, and you can just find inspiration. You just have to open your eyes. And you go to a playground, you see children play, you can open your eyes and it just comes through. Yeah. And so art is a huge piece. And then language. You know, when you're trying to do something new, like you're hilarious. And when you talk about sex, like it disarms people. Same thing with Tushy, with bidets, poop, periods, pee. Like these things are so like, unless you bring humor and levity and fun and, you know, and like relatable, accessible language to it. You're like, oh, it feels like I'm texting my best friend. And so like whenever I talk about what I'm working on, it's as though I'm texting my best friend or talking with my best friend. It's like I'm talking to you about it.
Totally.
And so people feel the authenticity of the language of it versus like, again, like how do I want to perfectly sum it up in like 4 words or less, you know, and a way that's really pithy and like blah, blah, blah. It's so heady versus heart and like true. And so, you know, I talk about what's true all the time. And so like just bringing levity and fun and silly and goofy and like what friends say to each other is enough to get people to be like, oh, this feels relatable. Like I want to check it out.
Totally.
You know? And then of course, just having a best in class product. You know what I mean? Like the shit is good. Yeah.
Also, you are the best cheerleader, but like truly, like you're always in the front seat of your friends' success and cheering them on. I love that about you so much. Like every piece of art your friends make, every product they make, you cheer so hard. You reprogrammed me to just like fully celebrate people when they are creating things and to not hold back because it means so much when you are putting something out into the world.
Yeah. I mean, I also like am a tiger mom Asian person. And so I do really applaud my people when they make actual great products. And so I also don't lie. Like so it's, you know, I mean, I will tell you how I feel for real, but I do, I mean, I surround myself with people who I am inspired by because of the magic they put out in the world as well and how they radiate. I love you so much.
I love you so much.
But yeah, I mean, other tips, like from a lens of like PR, I think the bolder and wilder and more ridiculous that you can be, the better. Like for us, when we were launching Tushy, we made DIY anal beads that were like super like lame and sent them to all press. And like we had tons of people like, look at this crass company with DIY anal beads, and I'm like, guess who's writing about it?
Yeah.
And like we had an event called the Year of the Asshole, and I invited literally all like 20 press to my house in Brooklyn. And I had like, a nude person painting butts and a butt massager. And it was kind of like a early 1.0 version of ButtCon.
Yep.
And all 20 press came because they wanted to see the spectacle that was happening in my house called Year of the Asshole. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And so just having a good like tagline for your event that actually makes people be like, I want to go to that. The invitation is so important when it comes to PR. It's like when you talk about scandal, or whatever, like that's an invitation to be like, I want to know the scandal,
Yeah.
or it's like the Year of the Asshole. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, or ButtCon, or we had a funeral for a tree where we literally rented out Judson Memorial Church in Washington Square Park, which is one of the most old churches in the country. And we held a legit real funeral for a dead tree and had a 25-part choir. We had like a reverend, we had a whole thing. And it was a packed house because like, what does a funeral for a tree look like?
Yeah.
So you actually, it's us just being as imaginative as we possibly can be and just following through and making an event. Like just last week, our amazing Tushy team, we launched a Tushy confessional booth in a porta potty in New York City at Washington Square Park, where we literally erected a porta potty confessional booth, and we had a priest that you can go confess your sins to, and then you can wash your butt to clear yourself of your sins. And it was like, it was just hilarious and silly and dumb, and people were so into it,
Yeah.
And so it's just about like going there.
Yes.
And being authentic about it and not being like, oh, well, will people find us to be like crass or this or that? It's like, no, people will delight in it. Those who find it crass will eventually over time wake up. In the same way, like when you're talking about sex, like I can recall like when we were first doing sex magic, or when you first started introducing me to this world of sex magic, of play, of just like being just liberated in our bodies. I felt myself to be liberated, but not to the level of like real liberation at the time from a lens of like pussy power liberation. And it took a while for me to like go to some of the experiences and like sip tea while I watched, stuff unfold. And I would just be like, cool. Like, this is awesome. Like cheerleading, happy down. But then it eventually I was like, okay, I feel safe. Like I'm here for the experience of liberating my pussy power, And I think like, it takes exposure and multiple times of exposure to be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, my friend tried it, said it was amazing. Oh, so I think when it comes to a product or an experience or a liberation, it needs to go through a period of questioning. It's like a 12-step of curiosity before you're like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, totally. And I think the path to success as a visionary or an entrepreneur or a teacher in that space is, for me to stand and feel all of that discomfort, even in people that I love or who are close to me, and let alone the whole world not getting it, and to keep going.
Yeah. And
to just keep offering and keep putting it out there and being like, okay, you're uncomfortable. Great. Let's do it again. Okay. You don't get it yet. Let's do it again. Right.
And your liberation liberates me. And so it's like this constant, and my liberation liberates you, and your liberation liberates me, and and it's a constant up leveling of just taking off the shackles of whatever constructs that we've been led to believe, and just being constantly liberated and constantly liberated. And I think that's actually what draws people to anyone, is their liberated states of being. It's like, I want to be like that. And so, wow, like what is it going to take me to really just be released in that way? And it's so empowering when you can receive that from your friends. And I think our mutual experiences of one another has been a liberation for each other in beautiful, different, powerful ways, right? I feel good about it. I feel great about it.
I feel great about it
really
too.
great about it.
I feel fucking excellent
really
about it.
Really great about it.
Oh, Miki, I love you so much.
I love you too. I love you too so much. I mean, there is so much more to share on like tips and stuff like that on business, but ultimately it's about the depths of our beings and what we want to radiate out.
You've inspired me in that way so much because in my own personal teaching business and brand, I couldn't help but saying what was the most honest thing. I didn't know how to say anything else because I knew that that was the truth.
Yeah.
And I knew that that was what saved me from a lifetime of pain. And I knew that it was too important to not say anything else but the truth. And as I've built Mood, right, to have the courage to keep saying it, to do things that are visionary, to do things that might scare people, it's like you have to have this courage to lose it, but to do the thing that you actually know is the truth. And it's wild because that is the most magnetic
but
thing.
it's also doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again. You know, it's like I'm dear with an endurance athlete, you know, a mutual friend. And it's like one of the things he talks about all the time is like over and over and over and over and over again, right? And it applies directly to entrepreneurship. It's like you have to share the passion of what you're working on with the same passion as you did it the first time over and over again. And it has to be true over and over and over again.
Yes.
And so I think for a lot of people, there's like this fear of rejection or fear of like, oh my God, they are hearing me talk about Tushy again or hearing me talk about whatever I'm doing again. And I feel like I'm just going to keep myself quiet and not talk about it with like, you know, but it's like, if someone's like, wait, you haven't washed your butt yet? Oh my God, come to my bathroom right now. I'm going to stand outside, wash your butt and just tell me what you feel afterwards. And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, right. Like it's like the first, cause it's true for me. Like when it's like, I just got a Tushy, it changed my life. I'm like, right? Like, it's like that level of truth. It's like, I'm like, I want to spread the gospel of Tushy forever because it actually is changing people's lives for real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And same thing with Hiro and same thing with things, whatever. But like my moment, it's just, it has to be true every time.
Yeah.
It can't be like a speech that you're reading.
No.
You know?
Oh, I love that. And you have to get over yourself, right? Like I loved when I called you and I was like, okay, I was out like giving people supplements, right? Like on the street, like just I'm back to that stage of entrepreneurship again of just like, I care about this and this is what it's going to take to really get people to try this product. And I believe in it so much. And you were like, well, I dug a bunch of diapers with baby shit in them out of the ground today to observe the decomposition process. And I was like, fuck yeah.
And it stank and I gagged and there were maggots and it's I draw the line at maggots actually. I draw the line at maggots. But there were maggots in there and we pulled it out and we're like, oh my God, it's degraded, but there are fucking maggots. I can't look at this right now, but it's working.
I'm real familiar with maggots from my time doing spirituality in Thailand. Okay. I love you. Thank you so much for this. Yeah. So I really encourage people to definitely get themselves a Tushy.
Yes.
As soon as Hiro Diapers come out, get like all the diapers in the world.
Yes.
I maybe I'll have a baby by then, but if I don't, I'll just shit in a diaper and put it in.
I'll
just like do my
shit.
part.
I mean, Layla Martin shit is worth gold. Okay. It is. I'll take it. I'll take it.
And if people want to follow you personally, how do they stay in touch?
Insta is probably the best. Just at Miki Agrawal on Insta.
Yeah, we'll share that in the show notes.
Yeah, and if they want to check out all my projects, first go to hellotushy.com and don't go to tushy.com. It's a graphic anal porn site, which is quite ironic. But go to hellotushy.com, and then if you want to check out all my projects, my books, and everything, go to mikiagrawal.com.
Yay! Thank you for listening to this Tantric Life. I am Layla Martin. This is the home for the realest conversations about sex, spirituality, polarity, conscious relationships, and all kinds of topics that help us live the absolute most incredible lives. Please check out the next episode. Please go ahead and leave your rating and review on Spotify or Apple or YouTube. It's so helpful when you do that. If you want to stay connected to me, the most helpful supportive thing you can do is to head over to laylamartin.com, sign up with your email address. That connects you to me if you want to study deeper with me, if you want to receive my deeper teachings. I do it predominantly via email. Finally, you can check me out on Instagram at @the Layla Martin. And thank you so much for being here.